Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, it's Susan Kaufman here for Attitude Magazine. You are listening to Attitude's ADHD Experts broadcast, and today we're talking about a very a topic of intense interest to many of you, Minecraft, a video game that is described by many of our readers as an obsession for their children. I think we're all wondering how to manage that obsession, what the positive aspects might be of so much time spent in front of a screen. And today we're just so fortunate to have two terrific experts on this topic, Randy Kulman and James Daley from Learning Works for Kids. It's an educational technology company that actually specializes in using video games and other such products to teach executive functioning and academic skills. You'll find a lot more about Learning Works for Kids on their website, learningworksforkids.com. They have a wonderful Pinterest board as well. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with us today. As you know, the interest in this topic is intense, so we're grateful for your time. Let me just note a couple of procedural items. Post your questions in the screen. The speakers will respond to as many as they have time for. If you have problems hearing the webinar, dial in via your phone line. You'll see that on your control box there rather than using your internet connection. And finally, after the webinar, you'll find the slides as well as the audio on attitudemag.com/webinars. So look for it. You can also find us on iTunes in the podcast ADHD Experts audio series. So with that, let me turn it over to Randy and James to get started. They will present their slides and then we'll start the questions. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Susan, and we want to thank Susan, Wayne, Stuart, Kate, and Ann over at Attitude Magazine. They've been really terrific to work with. We have an awful lot to cover. We're concerned that we might not cover it all, so one of the things that we did is we put together something on the website itself. If you just go to learningworksforkids.com/attitude, you'll find a lot of information that will provide you with much more in-depth answers to some of the questions that you might ask and some of the things that we'll be covering today. So I want to just briefly introduce myself in terms of how I got interested in this and then turn it to James. I'm a clinical psychologist working with kids for about 25, 30 years. Became very interested in how they love technology, particularly the ADHD kids who come into my office. They seem to love three things. They love watching television, they love playing with computer games, and they love playing with Legos. Minecraft seems to be an extension of Legos, and it seems as if many of the kids who with ADHD love both of those kinds of things, and so as a result, I became very interested in that and just hear about it in my office all the time. I've interviewed hundreds of kids about their use of Minecraft as well as done all kinds of work as well. And James, on the other hand, is more of a player than a listener.
Yeah, I'm really more of the resident gamer. I do love gaming. I've been interested in gaming and technology for a long time, and especially the educational applications of them. I have been a teacher of both high school English and college writing for quite a few years now, and I always like to incorporate as much technology and gaming as I can in the classroom, and as well with my two daughters. I have two daughters, one 7, one 15, who are not necessarily gamers or techies, but they allow me to teach them things with video games every once in a while. And my daughter, my youngest one, does love Minecraft. I woke up this morning and she was playing it right next to me and didn't wake me up in time to get her to school so she could play a little more Minecraft, which probably quite a few of the parents here can understand. So we can advance to the next slide. We can get started on some of the basic points that we want to cover before we get to questions. So one of the basic ideas is that, and this goes for everything that we do at Learning Works for Kids, that any video games can really enhance and teach executive functioning and cognitive skills. And Minecraft, it's really just a great example of one of those games. Now, we make this argument for quite a lot of games. Minecraft is one that's really easy to make it for. And the basic idea here is think about Minecraft kind of like you would think about a sport. Now, if you want to improve, for example, cardiovascular health or strengthen muscles, you could put a kid on a treadmill and have them run for 2 miles, and they would probably hate it. They'd probably want to quit after the first few minutes. But if the idea was to give them that physical strength, then that would be the kind of exercise that would work. However, if you were to get them interested in a sport like soccer or basketball that had them constantly running while in the midst of a fun and interesting game, then they're getting that same kind of health benefits of stretching themselves and doing that kind of exercise, but because they're doing it as part of a fun game, they'll actually do it. They'll do it more with more passion. They'll do it with more intensity, and often they'll get more out of it because of it. And it's the same idea with something like Minecraft. Yes, you can do exercises and worksheets at school and other things to improve these kind of cognitive skills, but if you can do it in the midst of a game that kids get as into as they get into a game like Minecraft, it makes the experience much more interesting, much more engaging, while still exercising all those same cognitive skills and brain muscles, for lack of a better word, that they would by just doing kind of rote tasks at school. So I'll just give you a quick example. Minecraft does go through a lot of different skills, and we on our website we talk about a lot of different executive functions and thinking skills that are practiced with Minecraft. But particularly for this audience, we want to talk about focus and planning, because those are two things that are so important to kids with ADHD. If you think about a kid playing Minecraft, the ability to focus, to really sustain your attention on one task for an extended period of time is incredibly important. If you want to build something large or complicated, you have to stay on a particular task through numerous different steps and processes, sometimes for hours on end. Now, if you think about how easy it is for kids to do that, or at least how readily they will do that in a game like Minecraft when they're building something that they really want to build, it's amazing to think that these kids have ADHD at all, because they are clearly focusing so intently on something for a long period of time. Whereas when they're given a task at school, for example, which requires the same kind of thinking skills, they don't want to do it, or they don't do it as readily. And part of the idea is that by exercising that kind of a skill, we can help to build it. And there's a lot more that goes into it in terms of moving that skill from the game to the real world that Randy will get into in a minute, but that's an example of how the game actually uses that skill. Another skill we talk about is planning. At school, kids are often asked to plan out a project or plan what they're going to do for homework, and they can be very disorganized and have a hard time going through all the steps that planning necessitates. Whereas with a game like Minecraft, they will have to plan intensely to build some big cool project. They'll have to watch a video about it. They'll have to gather and craft all the different items that they're going to need to build it. Because you have to build from the ground up in Minecraft, they have to start with one stage at the ground level and then build in stages, making sure to keep in mind what their plan was and how they're accomplishing that plan. And again, it's something that is often hard for kids in one context, but very fun and engaging for them in the context of a game like Minecraft. Now, the question that I'll hand over to Randy is do these benefits, does this exercise translate out of the game and into the real world?
So first of all, let me say that there is not any real good formal research that I'm aware of that talks about Minecraft and some of these skills. So we're talking really about how there are many other research projects that show how video games can translate into additional skills. The big issue when it comes to using video games and technology to improve executive functioning skills or other kinds of skills is the concern about generalization. How well can you make game-based learning into real-world skills? And there's certainly quite a bit of evidence that you can do that. If you want to look at this less formally, all you have to do is ask a kid about what they did when they played Minecraft, and you'll find that these kids are talking about all kinds of stuff. They'll tell you what they did, why they did it. Many of them are spending a lot of time, as you all know, watching Minecraft videos to learn more about doing it. Think about having a hobby like gardening or painting, where you have the same principles that you have to, you might be thinking about how you want to plant your garden. You might want to do some reading about that. Kids are doing that with Minecraft. So there's a lot of reasons to think that Minecraft in particular is having a very positive influence on kids' brains, assuming they're not playing too much. Mm-hmm. Now, there is a great deal of research about video games having positive and negative effects. Again, I encourage you to go onto the website to really read about this. We cited a number of the studies that you can actually read there, so if you want to learn about that in more detail, you can. But there's compelling data that suggests that video games can improve processing speed, working memory, pro-social behaviors, problem-solving skills, social involvement, the impact of psychotherapy. There's research that suggests that certain video games, for example, Tetris, can actually build parts of the brain. There's data that suggests that video games can improve cognitive flexibility. There's a great study that shows how playing the game StarCraft, for example, improves reading fluency, more so than spending a year doing reading training. So there's a great deal of research that suggests that video games can have some positive impacts. Okay, there are also some concerns about negative impacts as well. There are concerns about obesity, for example. There are kids who are sitting in their rooms and being withdrawn from others. So there are a number of concerns in terms of the negative effects as well. Boys and girls. Well, in the past there were distinct differences between what girls would play and what boys would play. And boys tended to play with more console games. Girls tended to play with like cell phone games. Boys tended to play games that were action, sports, adventure, first-person shooter, fighting games. Girls tended to play puzzle games more so than boys. Interesting, some of that has changed over the last 5 or 6 years. In fact, there's been a dramatic growth in the amount of girls and women who are playing video games, so that while it's not quite equal, it's changed dramatically. Boys like games like Madden, Assassin's Creed, Halo, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Grand Theft Auto. Girls like games such like Just Dance, Candy Crush, The Sims. So what does all this mean about kids with ADHD in video games? Well, there has been a fair amount of research in this area, and again, I don't want to spend too much time doing this, but basically some of the research suggests that kids with ADHD tend to be very similar to their typically developing peers in terms of the amount of video games that they play and the types of video games they play. However, there are some exceptions to the rule. One of the exceptions seems to be that there's a small group of ADHD kids who tend to overdo it, spend a great deal of time doing it. Russell Barkley and Fisher did a study where they found teenagers with ADHD typically played the same amount, except for a small group where they were very, very engaged and over-involved with video games. There is some data that says that kids with ADHD tend to spend more time being on the computer than kids without ADHD. There's also some data that suggests that kids with ADHD, when they're playing certain kinds of video games, don't play as well on the video games. Now, what we also know is that kids with ADHD tend to do better with video game versions of like psychological tests than the paper and pencil measures. So we can see, for example, when we're measuring working memory, if we use a video game to measure that, the kids with ADHD do much better than we do if we do a paper and pencil task, whereas typically developing kids perform at the same levels. You can go on to the next slide.
So thinking about what are some of the potential dangers or pitfalls associated with Minecraft, I mean, there's mostly good news in that most of the things that parents and teachers and other adults typically worry about with video games are not a problem in Minecraft. You don't have the kind of violence, blood and guts, gore, inappropriate language, bad social behaviors, even the kind of gender stereotypes and other issues like that. None of those things really come up in Minecraft because it's such a basic game on those levels. It doesn't include a lot of that kind of content, and that's great because there's really not a lot of content in and of itself to be objectionable at all, which makes it something that is great for even really young kids because you don't have to worry about them coming across something that you wouldn't approve of. Most of the issues that parents talk about or that they report has to do with simply the amount of time that kids are playing Minecraft. It's one of those games where once you get into it and you get into a project or you get into some big goal that you want to accomplish in it, it can take a lot of time, and it's really hard to pull yourself away from it. And a lot of parents see that with their kids where they can spend an entire Saturday when it's beautiful and sunny outside building things in Minecraft, and that's probably the biggest thing that you need to watch out for, and the biggest danger that's associated with it is not so much anything inherent about the game, but in that it is, in a lot of ways, it's such a great game, it's so good at what it does, that kids can spend too much time with it at the expense of other things. And I'll let Randy talk about that.
Yeah, and part of that is also that Minecraft is a sandbox game. So and what we mean by that is that you can basically go anywhere in the game. You can do anything you want. You can find different things in the game. There's not a particular set of goals and structures that you have to have. You can sort of pick and choose what you want to do. So as a result, sometimes it's endless, and that sure makes it very difficult for kids to stop playing. We do know, one of the things we do know about kids with ADHD when it comes to video games, and this is research done not with Minecraft, but with other video games, is that they have much more difficulties in transitioning away from playing video games than do the typically developing kids. So that's one of the places that there is a big difference, and Minecraft makes that even more problematic. So, can video games be addicting? Absolutely. There's no question about that. There's limited research in the United States. Actually, there's a great deal of research in China and in Southeast Asia on video game addiction. Recently, the DSM-5 came out with a psychiatric disorder that's called Internet Gaming Disorder, which is a new disorder, and it follows very much like some of the other addictions that are in the DSM-5. The thinking is that the incidence is someplace between the areas of 3 and 10%. It's defined as a preoccupation with Internet games. Kids who might be addicted will have some withdrawal symptoms if the gaming is taken away. They want to spend more and more time playing games. They may be unsuccessful in their attempts to stay away from the games themselves. They may lose an interest in previous activities and hobbies. And they'll continue to play the games even though it's causing them a great deal of distress with family. They'll continue to do it even if it jeopardizes relationships. So for the most part, the way the Internet Gaming Disorder is written in the DSM-5, it's really written for teenagers and adults and not for younger kids. But certainly there's some concerns about that. There doesn't seem to be any evidence with Minecraft that kids go from Minecraft to violent games. In fact, realistically, if you're looking at games that are out there, while Minecraft has a survival mode and there can be some violence in that, there's just so much less violence in Minecraft in general than many other games. So I would say that that's really not a major worry that we have, but it was a question that we wanted to respond to. There's also a good opportunity to see how Minecraft can be useful for learning, and I think we should go on to the next slide for that. Oh, play that. Okay.
So I'll jump in here and talk a bit about, one of the things that we like to recommend for really not even just if you have a child who is getting obsessed with one particular game, Minecraft or anything else, but as a good strategy for all parents to think about when it comes to gaming and other digital plays is to think about play as in a similar way that you think about nutrition, that what you're looking for is a healthy, balanced play diet. We talk a lot of times about the different types of play. We define them as active play, playing sports, playing outside, things that use your body, social play, which can be active but can also be any kind of play that involves other kids and being social, creative play, arts and crafts, certainly Minecraft could be considered an aspect of creative play, free play, which is really just when kids can do whatever they want and there aren't really any rules or structure to it, and digital play, which encompasses things like Minecraft, but also other kind of apps, whether they be strictly games or other fun things that they might do with digital devices. And the idea is that we should always be shooting for a balanced play diet where each of these types of play are both useful, helpful, essential, and if any one of them starts to take away from the rest of them, then that becomes a problem. You know, in the same way that you wouldn't want a kid to do nothing but draw and never go outside and exercise, you wouldn't want them to play Minecraft and not do other things that are social, or you wouldn't want them to only be social and not do anything active or creative. The idea is that the best thing to do is to try and always encourage a balanced play diet where kids are engaging in all of these different kinds of play on a regular basis.
Yeah, I want to kind of emphasize this idea of a play diet. It's one of the things that I really have spent a lot of time thinking about. In fact, if you want to read more about it, one of the things to do is to get my book, Playing Smarter in a Digital World. I have 2 or 3 chapters devoted specifically to how to develop a healthy play diet in the family. And the thing about a healthy play diet is that it varies with kids. It varies based upon their age. It varies based upon some of their interests. But the way that parents need to act in order to get their kids to have a healthy play diet is, first of all, they have to have one themselves. Okay, they've got to model it. They've got to exercise. They've got to read. They've got to have a hobby. They've got to do some other kinds of things. They have to expect from the kids that they'll be involved in a variety of activities. They can't just let them sit at home in front of a screen. Okay, although this winter, for those of us in the Northeast, it's been hard to get outside, but there's still other things you can do. They've got to make non-digital play more attractive. Okay, sometimes they've got to put some energy and sometimes some money into that. They've got to be able to take their kids places. They've got to go out to the museum or go to the ballpark. They've got to make that happen. They also need to be realistic. Sometimes digital play is fine, and it should be a part of a healthy play diet in today's world. Kids who don't get engaged in digital play, and I'm not talking about spending 5 hours a day playing Minecraft, but I'm talking about playing some video games and using some apps. Those kids who don't do that are actually less healthy. There was a great research study in the American Academy of Pediatrics by Andrew Shabilsky that showed that playing video games for 1 hour a day was actually far healthier than not playing video games at all. Playing 3 hours a day was very unhealthy, and playing between 1 and 3 hours was sort of neither here nor there. But in terms of psychological adjustment, playing for 1 hour a day seems to be the healthiest amount to play for. So if you want to have one major takeaway from this today, that's a good guideline to think about for kids. An hour a day is probably healthy, and it's probably healthier than not doing anything. But again, the whole idea is of having balance. Personally, I think that the most important things that kids can do is to exercise and to be out and engaged in social kinds of activities. But in today's world, digital play is a part of what they do. Next slide.
So Minecraft videos. This is always one of those things that that people bring up, and it seems to often boggle people's minds because they see their kids spending just as much, if not more, time just watching videos of other kids playing Minecraft. I was actually at my daughter's school a few weeks back, and they were presenting these posters were posters about the things that they like in life, and one of her classmates had all these pictures from Minecraft on there. And I went up and asked her, I was like, oh, do you like playing Minecraft? And she's like, no, I don't even have Minecraft. I just like watching the videos. The girl literally didn't even have the game on any tablet or anything, but she loved watching the videos of other people playing it, so much that she devoted half her poster to it. And the reason for this is, I mean, the basic reasons for this are that it's interesting. I mean, it's similar to the way that people will watch shows like Top Chef or cooking shows where people are doing things in the kitchen that they could never possibly do. But it's interesting to watch somebody engage in a creative task, especially when they're very good at it. It's also how kids learn how to do other cool things in Minecraft. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. It's such an open platform that you're able to really stretch beyond what you might be able to just figure out on your own. So kids go on, they watch videos. My little cousin likes to show me all of his SpongeBob things that he builds from videos, where he watches a video of somebody, building, Patrick's house from SpongeBob, and then he goes and builds Patrick's house just like the person did in the video. And ultimately, we think these videos are great. They're a great addition to the experience of playing Minecraft. I mean, for one thing, they inspire kids to go further in it. You know, they see somebody doing something great and ambitious, and then it makes them want to go out and do that thing too, or do something else even more complex and interesting than they would otherwise. It gives them a sense of accomplishment when they see somebody do something in a video that's really cool and really big, and then they go and they do it themselves, and they get that sense that, like, wow, that was something that, you know, 100,000 people saw on YouTube last month, and I just went and I did that myself. It also allows kids to be critical and analytical with the way that they're consuming media. You know, it's not like watching a Minecraft video for most kids. It's not like watching TV. They're not just absorbing it and being entertained by it. They're analyzing what the person's doing. They're committing it to memory. Often kids take notes so that they can go back and use it in Minecraft. They're really engaging with the media in a way that they don't do with things like television and movies, and that can be a really beneficial thing as well.
One thing I would say is that if you're going to have your kids watch Minecraft videos, check out the language and the content. YouTube just came out with YouTube Kids. That's a great source of information for this. So you can find videos that will have, or should have, at least that they're supposed to be screening for this, appropriate language, because some of the Minecraft videos are really not good for kids.
Yeah, and I just actually, I'll look it over and post it to the Attitude page. I tweeted about a Reddit thread where people were recommending kid-appropriate Minecraft videos to other parents, and it was a great. There's lots of them on there, but I'll post that on the Attitude.
And actually, we just did a post on that already. We did it with a few different. So we just have a post up on the website on learningworksforkids.com about finding good videos for kids. I think we gave 3 different recommendations on that. The other thing to do is you have to limit it just like you would TV time. They're sitting in front of a screen, so you're going to need to limit that time. The third thing is to talk to the kids about that. Get them to talk about what they're watching, because what you'll find is they're not just watching, they're thinking when they're doing this. That's one of the great things about Minecraft, is it really engages the brain in terms of thinking. I mean, they're engaged, they're motivated, they're focused, and it's really a powerful thing for them. Okay, next slide.
So yeah, I'm going to try to be brief about this because we want to get to the questions. There's a lot of teachers using Minecraft in the classroom, and they're doing amazing things with it. Minecraft EDU is a great place to see what some teachers are doing, and it's a place where teachers can go and they create worlds inside Minecraft to share with other teachers, where all the students can go into this world and do various educational tasks. For example, there's one I just saw where for teachers who are teaching graphing, where all the students can go into one Minecraft biome and go around and do things like find wood and go fishing and come back, and then what they'll see is then there's a big, area of the world where they can set up blocks to represent how much of each thing they found and kind of create a big 3D graph. There's another one called the Water Challenge World, where there's this kind of land with one very limited water supply, and kids have to learn how to collaborate and work together in order to make enough food and shelter and everything else with this very limited resource. Computercraft EDU is a great world built by a technology teacher that allows users to create and program a moving turtle using basic programming concepts. It's a lot like, if any of you were in elementary school in the 80s, you might remember the old logo programming language on the Commodore 64, where you'd make the turtle go around the screen to learn basic concepts about how computer programming works. And it's the same thing that's inside of a Minecraft world.
So if your kids are playing Minecraft, there are a lot of educational benefits. But not only in schools. One of the things I would encourage you to do is go onto our Pinterest, Pinterest /LearningWorks for Kids, actually LW4K, and look at some of our boards around Minecraft and education. So you'll be able to find other different things that you can do at home with your kids so they can get more out of Minecraft. And we're not necessarily talking here about the executive functioning issues. We're talking about how they might learn about math, or history, or how they might learn about other kinds of academic subjects. So there's a lot of terrific educational benefits. Why don't we go to the next slide so we can finish up and be ready for questions. I think we've got one more slide. So how do games like Minecraft affect the brains of kids with ADHD? Well, for the most part, the data seems to suggest that a modest amount of video game play actually has a positive impact upon the brains of kids with ADHD. By definition, Minecraft is simply a game that kids are playing. Play leads to learning. When kids play, they learn. It changes their brains. There's compelling data, for example, from Cognitive Working Memory Training, which is a series of video games demonstrating how those video games change the brain and actually build different parts of the brain that are being targeted to improve working memory. When we think about using Minecraft and other video games to improve executive functions, the way we think about this at Learning Works for Kids is that we see the games themselves as a teaching tool. We don't think that kids are going to sit down and play Minecraft or any other game and all of a sudden become wizards at planning and organizing, where they can apply those skills directly to many other things in the real world. They can do some of it, and they will gain something from it. But we see it as an opportunity for teaching. So what we provide at Learning Works for Kids is we provide very extensive, practical, step-by-step methods for parents and educators and clinicians to take the learning that the kid's doing in the game, help them to use some metacognitive processes to think about what they're doing in the game, and then we give you activities to actually apply that in the real world. So in order to really improve real-world executive functions from video games, you need to help a lot of kids to make that game-based learning into real-world learning. You need to help them to think about it. You need to help them to apply it. We call it detect, reflect, connect. To be able to identify the skills they're using, to be able to step back and think about how those skills help them, and then to be able to connect it to real-world functioning. So I think we're done with the slides for this. Susan, I think so, yeah. And we're ready for questions. Oh, if I could say one other thing too. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make sure that again, you see on the top piece there that we have a lot of information on that attitude page. So we rush through a lot of this stuff. So this, we tried to think about what we were going to talk about today, and we wanted to make sure what we couldn't cover you'd be able to find there.
And if anything else comes up in the questions where people want to see something, we can add it to that page as well.
Yeah, and I also put my email address here in case somebody had some specific questions for us, or if somebody wanted to share some information with us, if they wanted to join some Pinterest boards with us or to do some other kinds of things about this kind of topic. We'd be very interested to talk to them about that.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for being so generous with your time. Tons and tons of questions here. Let me first just ask you to give a very brief description of what Minecraft is. There are many parents who have said, my child is obsessed with it, and I don't really understand what it is.
Sure.
Can you just describe briefly what happens in Minecraft?
So Minecraft has two basic modes that most people use. There's survival and creative. Creative is far and away the more popular. But in the survival mode, you have this character. The graphics are very, very kind of old-fashioned, for lack of a better word. Everything is big square pixels. And in the survival mode, you are placed in this randomly generated world, kind of like an island, where you need to figure out how to survive. So what you do is you dig up rocks and dirt and you make a cave for yourself to live in. Then eventually you figure out how to make different kind of materials like wood and logs and doors and windows and everything, all the way up to computers, from just combining different elements that you find and mine for, dig for on the island. And then you can start to make more and more things to help yourself survive in this world. And there are these kind of not terribly scary looking monsters that will come out at night that you have to guard against, and there are animals that you can hunt, and all of the kind of monsters and animal hunting. It's very non-violent. I mean, you like whack an animal with your little pickaxe, and then it just turns right into like a chicken leg. It's not it's nothing particularly gory. But the creative mode is really what most people see, and that's where you don't have to survive. You don't have to go creating all of the basic materials yourself or mining for them, and that's where you're placed in this world, and you can just build whatever you want using these blocks. And basically every material in the world is a block. Think about it kind of like the size of a milk crate, a cube, and you can have these cubes made out of lots of different things, and you combine them, you stack them to build, anything from a simple house to the USS Enterprise, to
So that's the connection with Legos then, that there's a building aspect to it. Okay.
Very like Legos for the 21st century.
That's really helpful, because I think many people just don't know what their kids are doing. Is there a way for parents to be part of this? There are some people on the webinar who said that they have been able to turn Minecraft into a family activity, or is this something that is primarily a solo activity for most kids?
I mean, a lot of kids like doing it by themselves, but most kids, I think, would really enjoy having people come into their world. I think the biggest thing that I notice is how excited kids are when you want to see what they've done. I mean, they're essentially building these amazingly huge and intricate things with these kind of, Lego-type digital creations, and for the most part, nobody sees them. So when you show an interest, when you show that, just walk me around in it, kids are usually really excited, and you can certainly be on, 2 separate iPads or 2 separate computers and both walking around a world that they've created, and you can do things like build something together where you create a world and you both go in there and build, a scale model of your house, or what you would want your house to look like if you could change it. All those things you can do together.
Yeah, it's a great group game. We're actually hoping at some point shortly to introduce something where we have some Minecraft coaches that actually go on with kids who come to the Learning Works for Kids website, whose families are members of the Learning Works for Kids website, where they can come on, and we'll actually have a coach kind of helping them to learn how to play Minecraft, but also thinking about the executive skills that they're using in the game. So they're actually making that connection between game-based skills in the real world.
Okay, that's interesting. There are a number of people chiming in here saying that their children do play with friends, and it is a sort of a social behavior, a game in many ways. And I guess that's another concern that's been raised by a couple of teachers as well as some parents, which is that they feel that their kids are isolated in the sense that their peers, their friends, are the ones that play Minecraft. And if they don't, here's a person who says, I'm a school social worker, and I have some middle school students whose entire social world is Minecraft. If someone in the class doesn't play it, they struggle to find anything else in common, and everything they write about at school centers around Minecraft. They're consumed by it. So is there, and I think, James, you were saying this should be 1 hour and be part of a broader set of interests. How do parents do that? It sounds like this is a really engaging game.
Yeah, it's an incredibly engaging game, and I do think that for some kids who just don't like it, forgetting about the fact that maybe their parents don't want them to play, but they just don't like it, they're going to be a little disconnected in that, so they're going to have to find other ways to connect with kids. But again, playing Minecraft really ought to be one thing that kids do. I mean, there are other games that are like Minecraft that you might want to try to introduce a kid to, like Roblox or Terraria, Eden World Builder, Blockheads. Those are games that kind of use similar sorts of things, but also use skills in a different way. So that might be something that a parent might want to do. But I'm not sure how to take that kid who doesn't want to play and connect them to the kids who do want to play, because it's hard. The kids are very involved in this. I mean, kids are having Minecraft birthday parties. Their parents are making Minecraft cakes. They're doing Minecraft math. I mean, the math sheets are just built around Minecraft. If you, like I was saying before, going to our Pinterest site and other Pinterest sites about Minecraft are crazy with all the things people are doing with Minecraft.
Well, and it's important to remember that it's also kind of, at least at this point in time, a pop culture phenomenon like lots of other pop culture phenomenons that have always happened, where, like Star Wars was when I was a kid, and everybody had a Star Wars birthday party, and we all, wanted to dress like Luke Skywalker on Halloween. You're going to have some of that, and, that doesn't mean that it would have been okay for our parents to let us watch 3 hours of Star Wars a day. So I think that's where parents have to watch out, is just because a kid is really into it and they're kind of a big fan and they're into the fan culture of Minecraft and the pop culture sensibility of it, doesn't mean that they have to spend all of their time doing it.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Probably 100 people have raised the question of transitions, of real resistance when they try to stop their children, to get them off the computer or say this is the end of the time. Just serious, very serious problems getting kids to stop. And I think many people are at a loss as to how to manage that transition. What's your advice on that? And do you think that Minecraft should be used as a reward for good behavior? That's another thing that people are asking.
So yeah, I've thought about this an awful lot and written about this in my book and in a number of the essays on Learning Works for Kids, and it's a really tricky issue. I'm not a big believer that we want to use video games solely as a reward. Part of that implies that it's a dessert, if you will, as opposed to something that's healthy in limited amounts to begin with. So, although for some kids, I think that may be the only tool that you have. Particularly for kids who are struggling with school, don't want to put in the energy to school, but they love playing Minecraft or other video games, then I think it may be appropriate. But I tend to shy away from that. And again, I go back to this concept of a healthy play diet, so that other things become primary and Minecraft or video games become secondary. And I think that that's sort of what you need to do, that you need to make sure that the kid is busy doing other things, so that every day after school they're going to the gym, or they're involved in an athletic team, or they're going to swim, or they're doing other kinds of things, so that we're filling some of their time with other activities. Now, the transitioning piece from Minecraft is particularly difficult because you can't tell the kid, okay, well, just the kid can't say, well, I'll stop it when I get to the end of this level, because there is no level to stop at. So it becomes a really important thing for parents to have some pretty clear limits for the kids in terms of how much time they're going to spend, but also to give them some flexibility for other times when maybe they can spend more time. So, for example, my recommendation is typically to give the kids some place in the area of an hour a day during school days. It could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less based upon the kid, and then maybe more on the weekends. I always tell parents to take it easy on themselves. If you're going on a car trip someplace, or you're doing something like that, take it easy. Give the kids a tablet. Let them let them play and do what they want then.
I also think you need to recognize the kind of unique nature of Minecraft, in that there is no, as Randy just noted, level to stop at automatically. That said, kids probably are doing something that will have an endpoint of some kind. So, if that's something that's particularly hard to get them to stop on a regular basis, you can try doing things like ask them what they're making at that point. What are they doing? How long do they think it's going to take them to finish it? And if that's an appropriate amount of time, say, okay, well, let's finish this one thing and then be done with it, and try and be a little flexible. Maybe that's a little more time than you would have given them, but if you know, okay, well, that'll be a point where they're actually going to stop and we can have a compromise, then that can be something that works out better.
There's a few really good suggestions here from webinar participants. One person says they use Minecraft for the transition to a snack or mealtime. That works really well.
That's great.
Someone else suggests a 10-minute warning or a timer, so that it's not, they are not the person saying it's over, the timer is saying this is the end of it. And then finally, it's a great suggestion here from someone who says she turns off the router, so Minecraft is no longer available. But yeah, it's clearly generally a challenge for parents, which I can understand. Mood changes. Number of people asking about that. They're saying that when their children seem happy while they're playing Minecraft, they seem cheerful, engaged, but when they end, they feel that they're nasty, they're more unhappy, they have some meltdowns, they just see sort of a behavior, a negative behavior change. Do you have any, does that resonate at all with you?
Yeah, it resonates with me in terms of my clinical practice and seeing patients. I have heard that a number of times as well, and it's a real concern. I think those are the kids I'm actually probably most concerned with in terms of their video game play. They're internalizing something from the game and not able to disconnect. And I think that working with those kids to be able to disconnect from the game, so it's almost more of a cognitive behavioral approach that I'd want to take with those kids, or I have the parents take with those kids to get them to talk about what they're upset about, why they're upset, to get them to be more realistic about it. It is only a game after all.
Okay.
Take it very seriously, and I have heard about that. When it becomes really excessive, those are the kids that I actually think about. Maybe the game really needs to be taken away from them for a period of time, because I think that those are the kids that I have like I said, I have a real concern that it's playing a role in terms of some depression or anxiety that is prompting some of it.
And is that something?
Okay, so yeah. So watch out for those kind of mood changes as you would with any activity that caused negative behavior, right? Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
I mean, we're big in supporting, thinking that this is a great game and it's one of the healthier games for kids to play, but it's not always like that.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about age? There are some people whose kids started playing Minecraft at age 5, and others who are saying, by high school, they're onto other games which may be more dangerous or more violent. What's the right age group for Minecraft, and how do you? I'm sure it changes by child, but what's your general sense on that?
Well, let me just give you a little bit of a historical piece on this. When I first started hearing about Minecraft, I think it's 2009 when it came out. It was from teenagers who were playing it in the beta version. I think the actual version, the actual game itself came out and was released in 2011 more widely, and it was primarily older kids. And now I hear exactly what you're saying. I see 5- and 6-year-old kids playing it all the time because they enter it, they learn how to play it. Again, I don't think it's unhealthy for them to play. They're not able to play at the level of sophistication that the older kids are playing. But I'm also observing, again, and just listening to the kids who come into my office, how the kids are sort of growing out of it more quickly, and part of that is it's almost seen as a game that's for less mature kids, so that they do start to move to games that are more likely to be more violent and could be more problematic. I don't know what James is seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also depends on the kid. My daughter started playing when she was probably 6, but not very intensely. She still only plays it on occasion. But I also know kids who played as early as 5 and were really, really good at it. I mean, I think it's one of those things that, not everyone who plays Minecraft is going to even really be that into video games, because it's one of those things that kind of crosses boundaries in that so many kids are playing it. So many kids love it. Not all those kids are going to be gamers who are even going to want a gaming console or want to play more intense games. But some are certainly. But I don't see any reason why kids as young as 5 wouldn't be playing it. It's definitely it's essentially, especially in the creative mode, it's essentially Legos with an iPad.
Okay. All right. So 2 questions about games. What other games are similar to Minecraft, and specifically the person is referencing Roblox, which I think you mentioned as being a similar game. Are there other games like Minecraft in that, that you think are helpful cognitively, nonviolent?
Sure. So let me kind of put in a pitch for our website, because it's a great place to learn about this. This is part of what what our focus is. Our focus is on kids that we call alternative learners, kids with ADHD and spectrum disorders, and the whole site is around finding games that are practicing executive functioning skills for kids. And we really encourage you to go to the site afterwards, subscribe. It's totally free at this point. There's thousands of pages and great information for parents. And if you want, also you can follow us on Twitter at LW4K and Facebook as well.
Can I just throw in there in terms of that question? You don't just have to think of games too.
Right.
Recently on a a trip up skiing with a bunch of girls 6 years old, 6 and 7. One of the kids got introduced to the app Book Creator, where you can make your own books, and there's nothing game about it. These kids can just pick pictures and write little stories inside of an iPad app. And by the end of the weekend, all the girls were sitting around just creating their own books for hours on end. That's, in my mind, more similar to Minecraft than a lot of the other games out there, because it's essentially a creative activity.
Got it. Okay.
What you're just saying about the apps is really important. There are a lot of great apps for kids with ADHD. You know, it's interesting. I wanted to see what ADDitude was doing with apps, and I went and searched on ADDitude for apps, and I saw 9,000 the search. So that, you know, the idea of using apps for and this is obviously for adults as well as kids, but a couple of other games. Just I don't know if you heard them before. One is called Terraria. Another one, Eden World Builder. The Blockheads, and I think we actually just had a post that might have a couple of other games as well that are similar to Minecraft.
Okay, great. A question asking whether you'll touch just at least briefly on a more violent game for teens. Let me find the name of it. It's been mentioned several times here. Sorry, here I've lost this in the sea of questions. In any event? Oh, here it is, Call of Duty. Call of Duty, yes. Many parents have mentioned their concerns about Call of Duty, whatever that is. So
I mean, I've been an avid gamer for a long time, and I think what parents need to realize is that, you know, the average age of the person who buys a video game is 30 years old. Games are made with that in mind. Games like Call of Duty, games like you know, the Elder Scrolls games or Grand Theft Auto, they're just like watching a Quentin Tarantino film. I mean, you know, if you wouldn't let your kid watch Pulp Fiction, then you shouldn't let them play those games. I mean, the games are very, very violent and made for an adult audience. And unfortunately, there's a very kind of a simplistic rating system where you have the T games and then the M games, and it's sometimes hard to tell the difference. And there are plenty of M-rated games that really don't seem so bad when you watch your kids play them. And there are lots of others that are really, really for an adult audience. And I think that parents have to keep that in mind. And you know, I mean, they might have their own rules in their own house, and I think you know, everybody can be different in that way. But keep in mind that a lot of these games, especially Call of Duty, are very much made for adults. Even though lots of kids play them, most of the people playing them are actually adults.
all right, so this is not something kids should be playing. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah. We you know, I find the games disturbing. My teenage son was playing them for a while, and then sometimes he would tell me, don't look, because he knew I would find it to be disturbing.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, at the time he was, 16 or 17, and was like, okay, everybody else is playing them, but I still didn't like them, and I let him. But that was when he was allowed to have them, and even then, I'm not sure that was really, appropriate on my part.
Huh, interesting. So I guess the concern that people voice is whether there's a transition, I think they're concerned that their kids become very obsessed with Minecraft, develop a whole world, a social life, and let other things fall by the wayside. And then, of course, by high school, they're moving on to other games. So I guess your point about limiting it to 1 hour and making sure that there are other activities is the key, which sounds easier said than done, I'm afraid. Yeah.
No, it is engaged. I mean, kids love watching movies when they're kids, and they could transition to much more disturbing movies. But hopefully, the parents are engaged enough with what their kids are watching to steer them away from that.
So
yeah, it sounds like parental involvement is key, right?
Yeah, that's everything.
I think that one of the things that we haven't mentioned before that I think is really important with this is part of the reason that kids with ADHD love Minecraft is that they are drawn to the technology. And I don't know how many of the listeners here read the article in the New York Times about 3-4 months ago called The Natural Fix for ADHD. I wrote a few different web posts about that afterwards. But basically, Friedman, the author, and it was stating that a natural fix for ADHD is to give kids with ADHD things that engage their brain, that really interest them. Well, these technologies interest them. The key thing, I think, is to take these technologies and expand upon them so that the kid's not stuck playing Minecraft. A lot of the kids who play Minecraft end up learning coding skills. A lot of the kids who play Minecraft might make Minecraft videos. They might make their own Let's Play videos. So getting them to kind of use that as a tool to engage their brain in a broader fashion is one of the things that parents need to do. And I think that what happens is parents tend to be very hands-off when it comes to digital media and technology. They don't know what to do. And so as a result,
no, clearly that's the case. Yeah.
I mean, that's why I wrote a book. That's why we're doing this stuff, because they don't know what to do, and I think that they can do some stuff. Now, that's not to say there's on some kids where addictive qualities are going to be there, where they're going to, push the limits. I mean, we know kids with ADHD struggle with transitions, struggle with following certain kinds of directions. But I think that if we intercede earlier, that we have a much better chance to kind of make this into productive stuff rather than problematic.
Okay. Sounds like, yeah, like we should all get very involved in this. I just want to interject this tip from Dina because it sounds so ingenious. She mentioned that she uses a 10-minute, a 5-minute, and a 1-minute warning. And then she added that, oh, by the way, if her son stops at the count of 10, then he earns 10 extra minutes the next time. If he stops at 7 seconds, he earns 7 minutes and so forth. So she's created a sort of an incentive system along with a way to process the end. Thank you for that, Dana. Very interesting.
Sure.
Okay, I want to thank you all so much for participating. This is a topic of tremendous interest to everyone. I think you've given us a great perspective on the pros and yet, the restricting to 1 hour, which I think is a challenge for many of us, but is great advice. And I want to thank you all so much for this. To let everybody know that the website is available. These guys' website is absolutely great. learningworksforkids.com. And we'll have the audio as well as the slides on attitudemag.com/webinars. So thank you again so much, and see you next time. On March 12, our next webinar is with Russell Ramsey, who is a very well-known cognitive behavior therapist, talking about how to turn your intentions into action. So that should be a great webinar. He's always a good speaker. Thanks again, Randy. Thanks, James. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much for having us.
Our pleasure.